What is up, guys? Loser Manic here. I am already tired because I have recorded 3 videos today. I'm going on a little bit of sleep. So yeah, hopefully we can work something out. So today I want to talk about the negatives of the railroad. Yeah, I don't want to make this because I love the railroad so much, and I will say I do think it's kind of a bias because of the fact that before I joined or sided with the railroad, I talked about the fact that I joked about the fact that, or I always said that Piper was my women crush, but then after I joined the railroad, I said I now have a new women crush, which was Desdemona. So I feel like that's why, but I kind of want to say that before this video starts, I did want to say at the top of the video, um, good a good faction is subjective. Just like funny is subjective. I may find something funny, and you may think it's offensive. First of all, you can't get offended at a comedy show. Getting offended at a comedy show is like getting offended when the N-word is dropped in a movie about slaves, because it's expected to have offensive content or that word in slavery movies, because it's a movie about fucking slavery. I don't know where that came from. I am white. I have no need to speak on the subject. Why am I talking? Um, so with best opening to a YouTube video that I have made ever, even if it is bad. So yeah, so personally for me, I think what makes a good faction is morals. I've said that in 3 of these videos, or this is the 3rd video because the 4th one is just gonna be a 5-second clip of me laughing. Whatever. Work in progress. So if I say that the railroad's a good faction, I am talking about morally. So, and not from a technical. What smells like grass? Oh, that's weed. That's not grass. It's grass. It's a different type of grass. God, I hate that smell. God, I hate the smell of weed. So we're gonna get through this. I'm gonna try and speed this up because I cannot stand the smell of weed. So yeah, with that being said, let's move on to. So let's head on to what makes the railroad a bad faction. It is the fact that their goals is based off one thing. Now, I take the destruction of the Institute seriously because that kind of determines what happens to the faction afterwards. After the Minutemen destroy the Institute, since the general is still alive, they last. But what about, and the Brotherhood lasts after they destroy the Institute because of the fucking Brotherhood of Steel. They have the heavy guns, the power armor, but their views are negative. But what about the railroad? What if the Institute is destroyed? Well, then that puts their thing out of business because you can't create more sense. You could create more sense to make more and make your things better, but that seems a bit shady, shitty, and shoddy. Uh, um, but I sorry. Whenever I'm tired, I should also mention the more tired I get, the more I think I'm funny. So, and I'm and I've talked about being tired for 3 videos now. I need to stop. So I feel like with this, since the railroad's long-term goal is, I guess, revolutionizing synths or saving synths, once the Institute's destroyed, their job is done. So that, and they get destroyed, and they could risk getting destroyed by the Brotherhood, although by the time they blow up the Institute, they've already blown up the Brotherhood of Steel, so that doesn't matter. Plus, or somehow they could work with the Minutemen. Although, let's be honest, if I was working for the railroad, I definitely would like to work with the Minutemen. I don't know if you guys, would you guys be the same way? If you guys decided, if the Fallout 4 was real, if Fallout 4 happened and you guys worked with the railroad, would you guys also work with the Minutemen, like kind of ask Des, like, hey, could we expand a bit more since the Institute's destroyed? What if we, and the Brotherhood's destroyed, what if we combine our powers with the Minutemen to make the Commonwealth better so that way our goal could last longer? Yes, if the General dies, the Minutemen won't have anything for that, but you do have the Railroad to help the Minutemen out should they need it. That, to me, I feel like is a work in progress. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe it won't work, which is entirely possible. But I do think it would be interesting to have. I need to do more research on that so that way I can make a good, intensive video on that. So, actually, that's an amazing idea. All right, be on the lookout for that video. I want to see if it's possible. If not, then I'll still make the video anyway, talking about if it's possible or not. But yeah, so anyways, I feel like, yeah, as a whole, the Railroad's mission is good, but it's not long lasting because of the fact that also there is a commenter by the name of Terrible Reporter in my why the Railroad is the best faction. Take a look at that comment. It's highly worth it. I'll have to pin that comment if I get more on that video. This is the third time I'm sending people to that video. So yeah, be on the lookout look for that comment because it is an amazing comment. Again, I said this for 3 videos now. I'm gonna keep talking about it. The fact that the name Terrible Reporter is in a Fallout 4 video. Anyways, so I feel like. So yeah, take a look at that comment. That comment explains a lot more than I do because I just play the game and I care about moralities as opposed to the technical side, which is why I'm making this video because it could help me learn about technical sides to factions. So yeah, well the Railroad, I feel like this is gonna be a short one because the Railroad's like the most basic faction ever. The Railroad is all about preserving synths or saving synths, treating them as humans. That way, bigots like the Railroad. Or not the biggest like the Railroad are the reason why the Railroad keeps going. No, because bigots like the Brotherhood of Steel and the Institute don't kill them whenever they do so. But I do feel as if maybe something like this is not long lasting. I don't feel. I've said that 3 times now. But yeah, their goals are limited to one group. That's why I think the Minutemen in some ways is better than the Railroad to an extent that after the Institute is destroyed, they still have their settlements. They still have whatever, they still have that thing that kept them alive and working in the first place, and that is settlers and settlements. But the Railroad's mission only works if the Institute isn't destroyed. But once they destroy the Institute, their work is basically done. Yes, they do teleport a lot of synths out of the Commonwealth, but that's it. So what if they save all of those synths? Then what? Hire the Minutemen for those settlements to protect them. If somehow if you work with the Railroad and not the Minutemen, well, that's just Preston Garvey, and even then, they don't have enough resources. Okay, so now let's put it this way, all right? Let's say my thing comes true, and you somehow find a way to make the Railroad side with the Minutemen. That's not going to last long because of the fact that the Railroad is probably sided with the Minutemen for their own benefits. If something happens to the Minutemen whenever they desperately need it, who are they going to call on? Yes, maybe Des, but what does that do exactly? Are you just limiting? If the Railroad were to somehow ask the Minutemen for help, and you do, if you are working with the Railroad and you become enemies with the Institute, you work for the Minutemen. But who still reaps the rewards in that case? The Railroad, because you used the Minutemen to get your benefits and your needs. So And that's why you need to issue the evacuation order, because otherwise you're basically siding with the railroad. Railroad gets all the credit, but they're now destroyed because of the fact you did not issue the evacuation notice, which kind of comes into play. You kind of like Mr. House, you're granted on maybe a gamble that somehow, kind of like the Institute, it's a gamble to decide whether you're gonna work with the Institute or the three other factions. Same thing with the railroad. If you side with the Minutemen, you're gambling on whether this person that you just came across will issue the evacuation order, and therefore destroying all the Synths without giving them a chance. So it's basically a gamble. The Minutemen don't do that. The Brotherhood of Steel don't gamble. The only thing they gamble on is whether or not you side with the Raiders if you're a Minuteman, and whether or not you side with the Institute because they're one of the three factions you have to use to get to the Institute. So I will say that it's mostly a gamble with the Institute and the Railroad, because you're gambling as to whether or not, one, the person you just helped decode a culture chip is actually a bigot, or two, and they won't issue the evacuation order, therefore rendering your group obsolete. And two, the fact that and with the Institute, he basically has like a 1 in 4 chance, or I think a 30 no that's or a 25% chance that you will be working with the Institute. Otherwise, you have a 25%. So it's basically a 75% chance that you are working with the Brotherhood or the Railroad or the Minutemen, or you have a 75% chance you are an undercover agent for those, mostly the two of the three factions, because you can easily just say no to working with the Institute if you're working with the Minutemen. But if you say no to working with the Institute by working with the Brotherhood of Steel, Maxa gets mad. And if you say no to working with the Institute for the Minutemen, then or the Railroad, then you have to work with the Minutemen. So I will say that you are an undercover agent for the Institute, for the Railroad, and Brotherhood of Steel up until mass fusion or until the destruction of the Institute. So yeah, but I will say that the Institute's gamble is a bit more realistic than the Railroad's gamble, because they aren't gambling. They're praying that you are somehow working, or at least care about Synths at the very least. And yes, you don't have to work with the Railroad if you choose to blow up the Institute with the Minutemen, but if you issue the evacuation order and you don't intend on if you do intend to blow up the Institute with the Minutemen but don't intend on wiping out the Railroad, at the very least issue the evacuation order, or don't visit the Old North Church anytime soon. Unless you're a magazine collector, then I would say, and you forgot that collection by the time you destroyed the Institute, and you didn't, that's neither here nor there. I'm going way too far. Again, talkative when I'm tired. So I will say, yeah, now let's talk about the good stuff, is that they are a morally good group. They are. Again, subjective, whatever. Personally, I do think that Railroad is a good and best faction, because of the fact, even though I just listed technical stuff, again, best, my opinion. I feel like I have to specify this, because if I don't, I feel bad for the people who, because I don't want people being like, they're the worst fucking faction, you're fucking stupid. No, I don't want that. So this is my opinion, even though I get a lot more shit if it's my opinion. So either way, I'm fucked. Because while they are limited to, so why the Railroad, the good things about the Railroad is that they aren't bigots. The Minutemen aren't either, but you could have doubts that some Minutemen are. While some of the Railroad, you have no questions about it. They are not bigots because they work with Synths, the most bigoted group of all time. And it's clear, and it is evidenced by Fallout 3, where if you work with Dr. Zimmer, he wants you to reclaim a missing Synth. So even in Fallout 3, it's clearly evident that and if you do, I think it was the Replicated Man, you come across, I think, Victoria is it Victoria Watts? I think so, in Fallout 3, who's basically a member of the railroad, who says, "Look, I'm a part of the railroad. Give this to Zimmer. Let him know the synth is dead. The synth is in Rivet City. It's Harkness. It's Harkness, by the way. If you guys didn't know, it's Harkness. In Rivet City, or yeah, it's Harkness, not Pinkerton. Pinkerton's the surgeon that worked on it. Um, oh, sorry. I snuffed and like something came back. Give me a moment. Alright, anyways. So, yeah, I feel like, and so it's clearly obvious that the railroad aren't bigots, but so their intentions are good. They want to at least help people understand that synths are not the enemy. Synths are not to be feared. They mean well, even if they have a weird way of showing it, because they're mostly brainwashed by the Institute. Some synths mean well, not all. That's a clear distinction of the fact. That's a great distinction. It's the fact that, yes, some of them work with and for the Institute, but a lot of the times they mean well. So that is something to take into place. And also consider the fact that Danse is a member of the Brotherhood of Steel and is not an agent for the is not an agent for the Institute. He's an escaped synth, because otherwise, why would Danse go against his own kind if he was working for the Institute? Which, by the way, fun fact, I don't know if how many of you guys know this, but the M label in any synth, so like M797, which is Danse, means an agent. So Mayor McDonough's symbol, or Mayor McDonough's thing, is M. So that means he's an agent for the Institute, even though Danse isn't really an agent for the Institute. I wonder if that's the railroad's handiwork. I doubt it is, but I mean, whatever. If it is, props to them. If not, although why would the railroad make something that's against the railroad? Yeah. Also, I do want to clarify, the memory wipe is optional. Dima and Dez say themselves that yes, the memory wipe is optional. So if you guys use that as an excuse as to why the railroad is terrible, keep in mind someone who is against the railroad, Dima, even says the memory wipe is optional. They don't have to. Glory did it. Glory is a member of the Institute, or was a synth of the Institute, but then she escaped the Institute to join the railroad, did not have her memory wipe. It is optional. Even H222 says that he decided to go through with the memory wipe. He decided to go through it. It wasn't forced, because they aren't assholes. They are people trying to preserve and revolutionize synths, that way they are not as hated. Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. If not, I am absolutely sorry for nothing. Because that's the point. You need to understand where I'm coming from. All right. So yeah, I think that's it. Hopefully this was a little bit better this time. Sorry I babbled on too much. I try not to. So yeah. Be on the lookout for my Institute one. Although by the time you're seeing this, the Institute is probably already up. I haven't decided yet. So if it's not up, be on the lookout for my Institute video. It's gonna be a hell of a lot shorter than this one, because I have an idea. And yeah, if it's not, and if it is out already, go check it out. Yeah, Loser Maniac out. Oh yeah, if you like this video, make sure to leave a like. If you're comment down below if there's anything I forgot, whether good or negative, about the railroad. I'm pretty sure there is. I try to keep my best, and I babbled on too much about railroad signing with the Minutemen and gambling for some fucking reason. So yeah. Also subscribe if you're new to my channel. I really appreciate it. And if you do subscribe, make sure to hit that bell notification, because I do not have a schedule. That is going to be my channel slogan. I do not have a schedule. Well, no, my channel slogan would be I love technology and video games, because I do. So yeah, with that being said, Loser Maniac out properly.